Hey, it's Brian from Nacelle. We're hosting a series of short video chats with some industry leaders to talk about different perspectives and trends in headless commerce. Today, I'm talking to Devin Saxon, our senior sales engineer here at Nacelle. Devin is an expert on the thought process of technical buyers who are considering a headless solution. He has unique insight into the questions they're asking and the solutions they need. So, Devin, you often talk to talented engineers and technical decision makers. What's your response to them, and how do you talk to them about, how should they approach their headless build? Should they do it in-house? Should they use a system like Dell? What's that talk track like?
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite questions is that build versus buy question, because I think that the customer is really forgetting a lot of things when they're bringing up that question in the first place. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is maintenance. And you tell the story a lot better than I do around your agency days and how you did this headless build without Nacelle really in the picture. And it is possible. Like, we're not saying that it's not possible, but when it comes to scalability and the maintenance around and the cost that really comes with this, it's just a lot. It's funny because when you have this conversation with customers, we're like talking about the back end, we're talking about PWA and essentially like the APIs that are communicating between both parts. So it sounds like really simple initially, but you don't really think about the databases or like the webhook systems or their authentication that all really comes with it. So that really ends up being like around 3,000 developer hours at the end of the day when you think about it. And that's like the initial build. And that's not even thinking about when you want to scale out, when you want to add new systems or swap out your PIM or even adjust to a new framework on the front end. Because if you have spaghetti code while you're trying to do this on your own, that's just going to be a headache for your developers.
It's not just the front end considerations and, this idea of getting API data from the back end to the front end through, the regular APIs that everyone's using in e-commerce. But hey, there's more hours on top of that. There's this piece that's missing.
Exactly that.
I think the thing you and I always talk about is like, hey, we could probably sit down and build a structure or framework of Twitter, right? I mean, it's 160 characters in a form. I mean, gosh, what does this take? 2 hours to build something up and deploy it? But I mean, you would never be able to build the scale that Twitter can handle in 2 hours or even in an afternoon or maybe even a year. And I think that if you're planning to do a build in-house that's headless, like, oh my gosh, you can't just do it on paper and map it out and say, okay, this is going to work. I think that's a talk track you give really often when you talk to these folks too.
100%. That Twitter parallel is really great. I'm going to steal that.